While we've all been obsessed with the short-term price action of Bitcoin, the biggest news story since the launch of the Bitcoin ETF just happened. Bitcoin has quietly moved from just a store of value into real collateral, unlocking the $50 to $55 trillion U.S. housing market. Let's watch this short clip that aired on Fox, and I'll do my best afterwards to break this story down for you.
Business contributor Katrina Campins recently closed on a Boca Raton home for a buyer using Bitcoin. The price tag, David, $4.2 million. And while vetting the funds was the hardest part, the sale closed in just, get this, 23 days, faster than some traditional deals.
So you heard it there. The interesting thing about this is obviously who is behind this. It is, or rather partnered with, Fannie Mae. Everyone knows them. But from a Bitcoiner's perspective, it's amazing. You own the house and you still own the Bitcoin. It's almost as if Bitcoin has some utility. It's almost like Bitcoin is being integrated into the traditional financial system as we know it. And yet we're all just watching squiggly lines and doing tea leaf reading on Bitcoin and wondering where the bottom's going to be. Hey, I do it too. Okay. So anyways, let's start with this story here, kind of breaking down exactly what's going on. So Fannie Mae backed Bitcoin home mortgages are finally here, Coinbase says. So we heard about this story initially coming out. It was, I believe, towards the end of March, but now we have a historic first. First, Fannie Mae backed, or Fannie Mae Bitcoin backed mortgage just happened. Someone bought a $4.2 million home. Amazing. So, we go, a Michigan couple helped make history when they recently closed on the first government-guaranteed mortgage secured by Bitcoin. Working with mortgage lender Better, the exchange said it had enabled Joe and Amy to secure a Fannie Mae-backed home loan by pledging Bitcoin as collateral for their down payment, allowing them to benefit from the government-sponsored enterprise safety net. The offering will give homebuyers a way to leverage their crypto holdings without ultimately selling their digital assets or Bitcoin. Tens of millions of Americans have built real wealth in digital assets, and that wealth now has a direct path to home ownership, creating new opportunities for the next generation. When I looked into this, what's interesting is this family is a pretty young family. I think in their late 20s to early 30s. And now we are seeing that Bitcoin is basically just become a legitimate form of wealth. It went under the radar. It's been silent. Everyone's focused on Saylor and the ETFs and the Middle East and where the bottom's going to be and the fact the price is 50% off. And now we have just seen Bitcoin is legitimate wealth. It is a legitimate form of collateral. And as everyone knows, wealthy people do not sell their assets. They use those assets as collateral to do all of the things that they want to do in their life while maintaining ownership of said collateral. Well, now Fannie Mae, government-backed, the $50 trillion U.S. housing market, Fannie Mae, the biggest mortgage credit lender, mortgage securities, about a $13 trillion market. Let me see. I got the notes in here. Let me find the notes. So U.S. mortgage balances have hit 13.19 trillion, representing about 70% of all consumer debt. It's the biggest credit market there is. Okay. Anyways, going back, the mortgage system had long viewed crypto as too volatile to count towards a down payment on a conventional mortgage. Yet gears began shifting last year after Bill Poole, director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, ordered the mortgage watchdog to better align with President Trump's vision for making the U.S. the, quote, crypto capital of the world. The agency stipulated at the time that digital assets held in a self-custodial wallet should not be considered, only those held on centralized exchanges. We've covered this. Maybe we're not the biggest fans of that, but now, as we know, with this recent news, the hardest part, I guess, of this was basically verifying their Bitcoin wallets. and that they actually held real Bitcoin. But by posting Bitcoin as collateral for a down payment, Coinbase said crypto owners can avoid incurring capital gains taxes and forfeiting future upside. And unlike the exchange's Bitcoin-backed lending product revived last year, price swings don't produce liquidations, and price volatility has absolutely no impact. That is probably the biggest aspect of this whole thing. Is you get basically a 30-year mortgage, you lock up the Bitcoin, you're never going to get liquidated, you receive the Bitcoin when you pay off the loan. Yeah, you could go to, say, one of our partners, Ledin, but this is now integrated into the traditional financial system. And there is one little tidbit in that clip that I actually wasn't aware of because I'm not a homeowner. I haven't bought a house, but they did mention this happened in 23 days, and I was looking it up. And it takes usually about 30 to 45 days to close on a mortgage loan. So not only is Bitcoin becoming legitimate wealth here, it's also speeding up this process. Sounds a lot like what Bitcoiners have been saying for the longest time, you know, instant payments. It's going to free up the bureaucracy. It's going to usher in a 21st century financial system. And now we are seeing that this is, in fact, how it's working out. Now, I did bring up the ETFs and how this is the biggest development, biggest news story, since 2024. Now, there's been a lot of big stuff, obviously. We've seen the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, haven't really heard too much. We saw Genius Act pass. We saw Clarity Act pass. But all of that is really kind of just legal jargon at this point. What we are seeing here is super interesting in my opinion, because it's not so much that $50 trillion is going to flow in Bitcoin. That's not what the angle is here. If the Bitcoin ETF brought a new demand from institutions, if that new demand is coming, it's bringing a lot of capital. We've seen what the demand's done. I think they've got up, north of $60+ billion in ETFs. There's a whole new avenue for Bitcoin demand that was unlocked with the ETF. Now, what is interesting about this mortgage, Bitcoin-backed mortgage, is that it's a supply lock. So you add new demand, and then you take supply off the market. It's locked up for 30 years. That's less coin in the market that is going to be traded. If we kind of do the numbers, I guess 52 million Americans, if only a small portion of them are able or want to take advantage of this, they lock up their coin. That's a significant amount of coin, especially if they're buying $1 million homes. It's a huge move because now, as I've been saying, Bitcoin is legitimately a form of collateral that is viewed by the U.S. government, Fannie Mae, the credit housing market, or the housing market, real estate market, and now it is being viewed as a serious form of collateral. Essentially, it's no longer just internet funny money. It's no longer just your magic bean coins on the internet. It is a true form of wealth now. Obviously, this is the first time. This is the first one that happened. It is historic, obviously. It's just the beginning of what is going to happen. But as we are all watching the squiggly lines and trying to figure out how far along we are in the 4-year cycle, how close are we to the bottom? Again, I am guilty of it. We have just seen the Bitcoin Trojan horse get unleashed into the traditional financial markets. It's a silent story, and it really slipped under my radar, except for someone kind of brought it up yesterday. Thank you for that super chat yesterday. And it popped up on my timeline right before the show. And I had already gotten the show going. And then looking more into this. And shouts out to Joe Consorti. Go watch Joe Consorti's video. I will give you a plug on this one, Joe. You did a great job in the video. If you really want to get into the technicals of it, Joe really killed it on his latest video. But we are seeing now, guys, that us Bitcoiners, yes, we aren't at the point yet, even though we have seen some conversations of, say, eliminating capital gains in Washington, D.C. There's been a few speeches, a few clips going around. Yes, we haven't gotten to the point where Bitcoin is just fundamentally viewed as money. You don't just use your Bitcoin to buy things and not have to pay capital gains tax. Obviously, this is a big move where it is collateral now. Say, like any other thing you've seen in that rich people would use. It is now, I would say, maybe that's a little stretch. Maybe that was a little bit of a stretch. It is a fundamental part, and Bitcoin is now fundamentally a part of the traditional financial system. Again, the U.S. real estate markets, $50 to $55 trillion. The mortgage loan market, credit market is about $13 trillion. 70% of all debt is mortgages. And now you can use Bitcoin to get a mortgage. They just rubber stamp Bitcoin as obviously a legitimate form of collateral, legitimate form of wealth. In the past, before the March announcement, Bitcoin was actually viewed as a negative. It hurt you to get a mortgage. Now we've seen it in every corner of Wall Street. They're just chomping at the bits to try to get your Bitcoin, to accept Bitcoin, to allow you to use your Bitcoin. And part of this is a little scary as well. Obviously, who knows what kind of rug pulls can happen, how they're custodying, all those concerns are still there. But it's no longer ignored, laughed at. Well, people will ignore and laugh about Bitcoin, but now the traditional financial system has a vested interest in seeing Bitcoin as your wealth. We are one step closer towards a hyper-Bitcoinized future where you can use Bitcoin in your day-to-day, in your real life to benefit you. It's no longer just a store of value. It's no longer just a buy and hodl, which obviously we still maintain, we still advocate for. But it is becoming something that you can use to acquire real-world assets. Obviously, we're in the beginning. We're in the early innings of this. But all of us young people, maybe there is hope for the American dream. Maybe, I don't want to do the millennial yelling at the boomer bit today, but maybe we can actually get home soon. Obviously, we need to see the Bitcoin price appreciation, and then we could use some Bitcoin to post up as collateral to get the house. Again, own the house and own the Bitcoin. Sounds amazing. A lot better than what we've seen in the past. In particular, some of the Bitcoin OGs that have sold, hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of coins for say like a studio or a mansion. Well, you own the home, but you don't hold the Bitcoin anymore. We're starting to get to a fundamental shift here where we can use these same techniques that wealthy people use all the time. It really goes into the whole Sailorisms of if you owned a city block in Manhattan 100 years ago, you would not sell that, try to trade it and flip it. You would just hold it forever. You would use your assets, that real estate, as collateral. And you then, you could arguably say you would leverage and do other cool things with it. You'd have a lot of collateral to get, loans from, get capital from, get money, get dollars for, and you still own the asset. Here we are now. Bitcoin is being viewed in, I would say, the same lens, very similar lens. Bitcoin is true wealth now. Obviously, this news story is it's been a silent one. It kind of went under the radar because of what we see last week. Sailor selling 32 coins. It hit the timeline. Everyone's super excited about it. Well, rather more afraid of it. Everyone's looking for a big, bad boogeyman to blame. Someone that we can point to, explain, and show for the cause of why Bitcoin crashed. We're all the talk about the Clarity Act, and I do have a couple of updates on it. Nothing really crazy, but I got an interesting clip from Samson now that I really enjoy. It kind of does validate what I'm saying about it constantly on the show. Maybe I'm just getting negative on it, but Bitcoin is here to stay. Bitcoin is now a part of mortgages, one of the biggest markets. Bitcoin is now viewed as real tangible wealth. Well, tangible, I mean, you can't touch it, but you can use it now as wealth. We got ETFs. We got Wall Street coming. Now you can use Bitcoin as collateral like a lot of people have been doing from Bitcoin startups. But again, this isn't just from a Bitcoin startup. This is Fannie Mae. And I think we all know Fannie Mae from, 08, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt a little bit that they have reformed their image here, that they're doing things right. But it is U.S. government backed. This is huge. This is one of the biggest institutions rubber stamping Bitcoin as true wealth. Now we'll start to see the ripples. We'll start to see other institutions. We'll probably see other kind of products. Bitcoin get itself into almost every corner of every financial market. We're starting to see it happen. And I know the Bitcoin price is down. We're all like, I'm bored. Bitcoin's at a 50% discount. Like, something cool happened. Can we see something cool happen? I get it. This is kind of like a boring, very simple, not a sexy topic, but it is huge. It is absolutely huge what we saw happen. And now, guys, sorry. I lost the I lost the Rumble stream. Guys, I guess Trump did say something that we are now living. I guess finally we can start to have some fun with our Bitcoins. Though it's 50% off right now. So maybe for us in the chat, excuse me, hold on, guys. Wow, guys, I had like a hair in my throat. Now we can play with our Bitcoins. Pause. Uh-oh. You probably want to wait until all-time high. Did it? I'm still streaming, right, guys? It looked like it stopped real quick. It looked like it stopped on me, but looks like we're still going. Okay, guys, so again, I think a lot of people are going to hear this story, and one, they're just going to be completely turned away from Fannie Mae, especially if you're like a millennial like me and you remember the Big Short. It's actually, look, I pulled up the Fannie Mae website just to kind of look at it, and it is kind of interesting what they have here. So here is the website, FannieMae.com. Our financial results, don't really care. But this top one, this top headline subtitle, I think is very interesting. Powering America's housing. We help make housing more accessible and affordable. And I'm keying in on accessible. Now, obviously, they have their own marketing here, and it's taking a different angle. But now they have actually made housing more accessible to us Bitcoiners. So we'll give them that. But then also, you come in here and it's like Fannie Mae purchases mortgages from lenders and bundles them into mortgage-backed securities that we sell to investors to promote a healthy housing market. Yeah. Didn't mortgage-backed securities, I don't know. I remember, just an instant in my short life. Well, I guess kind of long now, where those MBSs really, really kind of mess things up. But hey, what do I know? Maybe it goes into that one quote that I think it's like a Napoleon quote. It said something like, look at what happened in a man's youth up until 20, and that will explain who they are going further. 2008 is that's one of the fundamental moments, key events for me in my life and for a lot of millennials out there. What happened in the 08 financial crisis, we are all still kind of dealing with those consequences. What happened in 2020 when they printed a bunch of money We got the lockdowns, all that stuff. Yeah, I was older, but that's still kind of part of our consciousness now as young people. I'd always joke for a while, and I think every millennial in the chat, sorry, my Gen Xers and boomers, and I'm sure you guys have your own versions of this, but I always joke, and I think a lot of millennials do joke, and then I'll keep it moving. Joke on the idea of, it seems like at every moment in my life, I have like an event to point to. 2001, 9/11, 2008, great financial crisis. What do we got? 08 was like Obama. 2016 was Trump. 2020, printing, lockdowns. Now we're kind of in a new era going into the end of the, mid-20s here, the mid-2020s. You can always pinpoint certain dates and certain events as, I would say, maybe consciousness forming or molding, conscious molding. And we've just been through so much stuff. So, what's another crisis? What's another crazy event? What's another world event to us? Doesn't matter. We'll just walk through the park. But Bitcoin's the shining light. Bitcoin is truly the shining light. And even though, again, the price is down, Bitcoin's getting kicked, people aren't very excited about Bitcoin. But let's be honest. Bitcoin is no longer I guess debatable. I was going to say the cool thing on the block. It's probably debatable whether Bitcoin has ever been cool. Not an attack, but everything's chasing the SpaceX IPO that's happening tomorrow. Looking like it might be a $2 trillion IPO, like right out the gate. $2 trillion market or company, making it like something, I think it's like 6th biggest company in the world, just right out the gate. That's the hot thing. I've been seeing a lot of headlines essentially saying Bitcoin and gold are no longer the cool thing. Everything is chasing the SpaceX IPO. We did see that tech stocks are getting a hit because everyone's chasing the SpaceX IPO. And actually, to continue on what I was saying yesterday on the AI bubble, I'm starting to feel a little better about that idea, because I saw a bunch of very smart people, smarter people than me, essentially say the AI bubble hype is an IQ test, and I'm like, I passed it. Okay, I passed it. But I mean, obviously, SpaceX is not AI, but we're starting to see that more people, I think, are seeing what we're seeing, though. Most people don't point to the fact that it's your money, stupid. It's your money that's getting worse. It's your money that's getting destroyed. And Bitcoin is the fix. So Bitcoin may not be the hot thing right now, but when everyone is piling into the hot trade, Bitcoin's undervalued, and there will be a moment where they realize that Bitcoin is so undervalued, and when they need to get some, it's going to rip, boys and girls. It's going to rip. All right, guys, I'm going to keep it moving. Let's see. The Clarity Act updates. There's some recent clips coming up around it. We did see kind of an update on Tuesday. I guess I'll pull that up for you guys as well. And then what do I got for the news? Oh, we got a huge update, news story coming out of the DOJ in regards to Operation Chokepoint 2.0. They are subpoenaing and probing the banks in regards to debanking. We're getting closer. Caitlin Long's been on this beat for a long time. And then to wrap up, we're going to have a little fun. CPI inflation numbers came in, and did you guys hear this quote from Trump yesterday? It was absolutely insane. Okay. It was absolutely insane. Anyways, on that note, I will be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. David, making Bitcoin boring is a ploy. Honestly, like before I get into it, it really do be feeling like that, right? It really does feel like since the ETFs got in 2024, since all of the big banks started embracing Bitcoin, you know, from 2024, 2025, 2026, where it seems like we're hearing all these huge updates. And what, you know, last year, Bitcoin barely broke all-time high. They have like kind of neutered the upside. I don't think it'll happen forever, but it does seem like they are trying to make Bitcoin boring and make us as bored as possible. It does feel like maybe, and this is me tinfoil hat speculating. I have no real data points to back up this claim. This is just, you know, this is just between friends talking, okay? It really does feel like they are trying to get us so bored that we just like throw in our chips and walk away. They're really going to test our ideological stance. Are we here just to get rich, or are we here for the revolution? Look, I don't know if that's actually what's happening. Maybe this is just more of a function of Bitcoin maturing, you know, getting the wheels going before things go on. Obviously, a lot of macro factors, the capital rotation, the ETF, basically capital rotation. You know, what's going on in the Middle East. Like there's a lot of macro headwinds, but it does feel like they're trying to bore us to death. And they're trying to basically make us all rage quit, bro. They are trying to make us rage quit. Who will be the final rage quit before we end this bear market? I don't know. I have maybe someone, but I don't think he'll actually rage quit. But that would be catastrophic in my mind. And you probably know what I'm talking about. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is $62,450. It's a low life. It's almost like, you know, that what, 59 something. It's going sideways. It's kind of claiming that kind of some support there. We're not out of the woods yet. All right. But the discount from all-time high, 50.5%. The market cap 1.25, and the block height, the current block height 953,267. Okay, guys. So I'm not going to play all these clips. I really am just going to give you the general overview. And then I got to play Samson Mao from the Bitcoin News.com, bitcoinnews.com. Shouts out to Rob. I saw this on Twitter. And again, you know me, I only listen to the experts when they confirm my bias. And Samson Mao, obviously, loved the Omega candle, $1 million Bitcoin coming soon. But I love his take on the Clarity Act. It's kind of something I've been saying, but also I've been feeling on a gut level here. Anyways, we got this morning, the excuse me, the U.S. Senate Banking Committee, GOP, tweeted, Chairman Senator Tim Scott on digital assets. Job one is making sure that consumers are protected. The Clarity Act will establish clear rules of the road, protect consumers, and help ensure America leads the future of finance. We also got this morning CFTC Chair Selig saying that the Clarity Act will cement rules into statute so a future hostile administration, quote, can't tear apart all of our rules. says the U.S. is not regulating by enforcement and opaque rules, and that the bill will ensure America remains a crypto capital of the world. So you're seeing the, how do you want to put it? The PR tour around the Clarity Act, which could be a good thing. Obviously, we saw last week Jamie Dimon basically saying, hey, we're going to attack the bill. You know, Brian Armstrong's full of BS. Now we got this clip too, coming from Representative McClain, saying on Fox, the big banks can't kill the Bitcoin Clarity Act. One way or another, it's going to get done. Crypto clarity, it's here to stay. Senate will pass the bill within the next month. We've been hearing that for a while. I swear, guys, next month for sure. But we did get a story kind of update around the Clarity Act. So I will read this, and then I want to play the Samson Mao clip of it. So we got the PR tour on where the Clarity Act is, and you know, shouts out to all the people in suits that are making this happen, and hopefully it's beneficial. But I'm getting a little like, I don't think it's really going to help Bitcoin. Keep that thought in mind. Here is Eleanor Terrett. She goes, news, a Democrat source familiar with the bipartisan meeting between Senate lawmakers on Tuesday. They did one on Tuesday. I thought it was going to be Wednesday, but they did one on Tuesday, closed door, and I think they're doing one also today. I think Wednesday was when law enforcement was at the White House to talk about the Clarity Act. But anyways, bipartisan meeting between Senate lawmakers today described ethics negotiations as rocky, citing what they characterize as an about face by GOP members and the White House on an agreement they say had previously been reached ahead of the Senate Banking Committee markup last month. That agreement, I'm told, originally included a provision that would have allowed state attorneys general to sue the DOJ for failing to enforce certain ethics provision. GOP source responds by saying that concerns were later raised by senators not involved in the ethics discussion about allowing state AGs to bring such actions against federal officials, including members of Congress. So sounds like there's more hiccups to this, okay? So we know they've been saying July 4th of this year, a little less than a month from now, is when they would like to get this passed into law. It seems like they're having some more issues. But with that being said, let's play the Samson Mao take on his view of the Clarity Act. And again, shout out to Rob from BitcoinNews.com for the clip. I love this. This is kind of where I'm at in regards to the Clarity Act.
Nothing really matters to Bitcoin. If you really understand Bitcoin and you understand the mechanism by which Bitcoin exists, then nothing matters. Bitcoin is inevitable. And it's all just narratives of the day that people think will help or not help. But yeah, the Clarity Act is really just about fractional reserve bankers wanting to keep doing fractional reserve banking. That's the end of it. They're fighting about stablecoin yield. And this is why it doesn't really have anything to do with Bitcoin, because it's about stablecoins and banks, really. They're duking it out. And I don't really care so much one way or another, but because you can already have yield on stablecoins. It's just on secondary markets. You can lend out a stablecoin and get a yield on it, right? These markets already exist. It's just, can they do it directly, is the question. So it matters for some of the stablecoin issuers, I think, especially the US ones that want to compete with the banks. But for us Bitcoiners, we don't really have a horse in the race. Like either, Jamie Dimon will win, or some US based stablecoin will win.
Yo, best line out of the whole thing. Like, as a Bitcoiner, I don't even care. Like, this has nothing to do with Bitcoin. Oh man, it's so good. That is such the vibe. I think at this point we all have Clarity Act fatigue. We are just tired of hearing about this. It keeps getting delayed. I think maybe in truth, excuse me, guys. I think maybe in truth, the only reason a lot of us Bitcoiners even care is because we are number go up maxis, and we're like, yo, they keep telling us if the Clarity Act passes, there's trillions of dollars waiting to get into Bitcoin. They're going to pump our bags. At this point, guys, I think it's the classic George Bush, like, fool me once, Shame on you. Fool me twice, can't fool me again. Like that's what we thought with the ETF. And now, like, yeah, it's a huge story. The ETFs was a historic moment, integrating Bitcoin into the more traditional trading investment. But also, it's like, I thought you guys were gonna pump my bags, bro. Like, I thought, oh, be careful what you wish for. I thought the boomers were gonna save us. Now we're kind of at this. We're literally at the same thing. It was like, oh yeah, Washington passed the Clarity Act, and then in 6 months, and I've seen some of you guys say this in the chat. In 6 months, we're gonna be like, be careful what you wish for. Yeah, maybe Washington, maybe the U.S. government isn't going to bail us out. Oh, maybe this is actually going to be worse. I've heard a lot of people say that, though. The only reason people want the Clarity Act or even the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, it's like, I thought you guys were all crypto anarchists and, F the state, and you want the state to bail you out. It's like, no, it's not a bailout. You're pumping my back. Hey, it's a win-win. We all win in this together, okay? Dude, watch. We're totally going to, like, Clarity Act will pass, maybe. All right. Hypothetically speaking, Clarity Act passes, right? In 6 months, it's like it's been all the talk this whole year. It passes. Well, it's like Bitcoin just dumps. The capital goes chasing something else. It never comes to Bitcoin, and we just shift to a new cope. Like, what? Bitcoin, do something. Can you do something, please? And then we're going to be sitting here, a year from now and be like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have cheered on the cover. Maybe we shouldn't have cheered on the politicians as they made this monstrosity of a bill. Oh, man. It's going to be a fun day. It's really, I think this is like summing up the peak bear market vibe right now. It's really, you have to laugh or else you'll just start crying. Oh man. It's it's fun out. I'm fine. It's fun. We're all fine. It's like that one meme. I speak in memes. You guys know me. I haven't shown them on the show much because you guys tune out, but I speak in memes. It's that one meme of the little boy talking to the news reporter, and he's like laughing, and then he starts crying. Dude, that's me right now. That is totally me right now. Anyways, I'm gonna keep it moving so I have a little more time to talk about what Caitlin Long highlighted about the DOJ and Operation Chokepoint 2.0. So I'll be right back.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like BitKey, and I recommend it to my friends and family. BitKey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life. Not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. And no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about BitKey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in. Inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using Bitkey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new Bitkey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
Okay, guys, so shouts out to Caitlin Long for highlighting this. She tweeted this yesterday at 2:13 p.m., and it's actually quote tweeting a Wall Street Journal post on Twitter. And it goes, exclusive. The Justice Department subpoenaed several of America's largest banks about whether they improperly closed customer accounts for political reasons. Caitlin Long's quote tweet goes, this means the DOJ is getting closer to what actually drove all the debanking. Biden's financial regulators mostly and DOJ knows this, but since banks are legally prohibited from disclosing the pressure they receive from federal regulators to debank targeted industries / people, subpoenas are the next step in the process. And this morning, she doubled down and goes, subpoenas so the DOJ can figure out who at Biden's federal bank regulators directed the banks to debank during Operation Chokepoint 2.0. They already know. They're just collecting evidence. Yo, Kelly Long, savage. And obviously, if you guys are familiar, of course, Caitlin Long tried to do Custodium. It was a fully reserved bank. And they said, hey, not going to happen. And she has been on a warpath since. But anyways, here is a good breakdown of this. And it is from the Defiant. And it goes, DOJ opens debanking probe into JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. Federal prosecutors have subpoenaed JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo, examining whether banks unlawfully terminated customer accounts for political reasons. The probe directly validates the crypto industry's Operation Chokepoint 2.0 grievances. Guys, we are vindicated. You know, hey, I know we're not vindicated in price, but we're vindicated in other ways, all right? I will read a little bit of this. I did highlight some of it, so, forgive me. We are going to do a little read-along because, we got to get the sauce in here, all right? So, federal prosecutors have subpoenaed, again, JP Morgan, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo as part of a probe into whether the banks unlawfully terminated customer accounts for political reasons, the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C., headed by Janine Pirro, issued the subpoenas, some dating back to last year, seeking list of debanked individuals and the bank's explanation for the closures. Prosecutors are examining whether the termination violated the Financial Institutions Reform, Recovery, and Enforcement Act of 1989, a statute traditionally used to prosecute bank-related fraud. Bloomberg also reported on the probe. For the crypto industry, the investigation amounts to a formal government inquiry into what advocates have long called Operation Chokepoint 2.0, a pattern of account closures at major banks during 2022 and 2023 that digital asset executives said targeted them for their involvement in crypto. We've been covering this. It's been very obvious to us here. But now, hey, I guess we're getting a little acknowledgement coming from the DOJ. Going further, where the probe stands, JP Morgan and Bank of America each confirmed earlier related probes in regulatory filings. JP Morgan disclosed it in November 2025 quarterly filing that it was facing, quote, reviews, investigations, and legal proceedings tied to Trump's August 2025 executive order on debanking. The bank said its code of conduct prohibits closing accounts for political or religious reasons and expressed support for the administration's access to finance efforts. Bank of America made a similar disclosure around the same time. Very interesting because there's been some very high-profile JP Morgan Chase bank closures literally on those reasons. Anyways, Pirro's office opened its investigation independently. The Wall Street Journal reported the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency had not sent referrals to the DOJ. Prosecutors pursued the inquiry without a regulatory handoff. The subpoenas extend a broader campaign that began with Trump's August 2025 executive order directing regulators to review banks' policies for political or religious discrimination. The OCC responded in September, requesting banking data from the 9 largest banks it supervises. The Small Business Administration sent similar directives to more than 5,000 banks. Okay, so what is very interesting, and I think this last paragraph does highlight this, and it does kind of go into the trolley argument that we would say when we're joking on the show. It's like, remember when the DOJ and the White House were fighting us and Bitcoin went up. Good times, good times. Maybe Operation Chokepoint 2.0 was the gift that kept giving. Anyways, dude, I'm coping so hard on today's show. Anyways, compliance exposure for institutional crypto. So now we're going to get to what this basically means for Bitcoiners or, crypto companies. Banks now face simultaneous pressure from the executive branch to document their account closure practices and legal exposure if those records reveal a discriminatory pattern. For institutional crypto firms, the probe adds a new layer of uncertainty to banking relationships they spent 2024 and 2025 rebuilding after the 2022 and 2023 wave of closures. So it's not all good, I would argue, but at least they're talking about what we've been saying. At least there is, as Caitlin Long said again, subpoenas so the DOJ can figure out who the regulators directed the banks to debanking during Operation Chokepoint 2.0. They already know, but they're just collecting the evidence, okay? But it does show that the regulatory backdrop has shifted. Whether the DOJ subpoenas lead to changes, settlements, or consent orders will determine how much enforcement force backs the administration's debanking reform effort. So this one maybe... Again, this whole show today is like the least sexy topics ever. But you can't get mad at me, all right? Don't get mad at me, all right? I have to cover a lot of this stuff. The Clucky Chicken is not in the show anymore. It's over. Story time and Uncle Opti. What? But we have known for a while, and arguably, I have seen some rumors and speculation that there may be a kind of new form of Operation Chokepoint 3.0. It's not like an official stance. It's doesn't really have an official name yet, but a lot of people have been speculating Operation Chokepoint 3.0 is probably already in force. But looking back now, maybe we can get the names of who sent the orders, what were the reasons for Operation Chokepoint 2.0. Hopefully this does, pun intended, bring us some clarity here as an industry. Because look, the start of this show, what was the idea? Is that Bitcoin can now be used as legitimate wealth. We're seeing this in every corner. Bitcoin is becoming, or rather has become, institutionalized. It is not yet a cornerstone of traditional finance, but it is becoming a part of it. Now, if there is, of course, like the end of that letter said, actual change that comes out of this, and Bitcoin banks like Caitlin Long's Custodia have a better standing and we know we won't actually be attacked, what does that mean for you? It means, Bitcoin native banks, as Hal Finney was talking about. If we are no longer being attacked as an industry and banking is easier for us, well, we get better products. Secondary effect might be essentially we get better loan rates. We get treated better is essentially the idea. Now, will this happen? Who knows? Will there actually be meaningful change? Probably debatable. I'm being completely honest here, but it is good where we are going, what we are seeing. But again, my just ever flowing troll in me, it's like, man, can we go back to when they were fighting us because the number would go up? Remember when they didn't like us and we saw crazy rips in the Bitcoin price? Yeah. The good old days. The good old days, man. What if we run 2 ops instead of 1? Yeah. It's a good time. All right, I'm gonna keep it moving because we gotta talk about this Trump clip. It is the culture, that is the culture. It looks like the war is back on. It looks like the ceasefire's over. But Trump made a crazy, absolutely crazy statement yesterday regarding inflation that it's one of those Trumpisms where you're like, look, sometimes you're hilarious. What are we what are we talking about here? Okay. Anyways, last commercial break. And let's talk about Uncle Trump.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or HIVEDigitalTech.com.
Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, cell towers can fail. Hurricanes, cyber attacks, blackouts. Most people go dark. Satellite phones don't rely on local infrastructure. With Iridium, 77 satellites in orbit, you can stay connected across the U.S., even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123 also has Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags for your hardware wallets, and everything you need to build your own off-grid Bitcoin citadel. Go to sat123.com/simply and use promo code simply for 15% off anything in the store. Sorry, guys. Hold on. I saw someone say 1 minute chart. Is the 1 minute chart going? Is the 1 minute chart bussing right now? Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, Foxy gets it. Yo, it's kind of bussing. All right, I'll pull it up, but this isn't really what I want to talk about. It is actually interesting. What is this? What caused this? Is there any news to explain that happened? What 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 minutes ago? Crazy. Okay. Let's frame this conversation. Okay. This is the latest update as of so far in regards to what's happening in the Middle East. It looks like the war is back on. It looks like the ceasefire is essentially over. I mean, it's kind of been over for a while. You know, there's a lot of tit for tat going on. Straits still closed. Like, what is going on here? Well, it looks as if it's officially going to go back on. Though, as everyone loves to point out, you know, maybe we are witnessing another taco. We are going, you know, tomorrow the market's closed. So let's see what happens. Anyways, Trump's True Social post goes, the United States will be hitting Iran, whose Navy, Air Force, radar, anti-aircraft, and all other forms of defense, together with most of its offensive capabilities, are gone. Very hard tonight. You do. All right. The United States will be hitting Iran very hard tonight, whose Navy, Air Force, radar, anti-aircraft, and all other forms of defense, together with most of its offensive capabilities, are gone. At some point in the not-too-distant future, we will be taking Clark Island and other oil infrastructure points and assume total control of their oil and gas markets, much like we have with Venezuela, which is working out brilliantly for both Venezuela and the United States of America. Thank you for your attention to this matter. One thing that I do want to point out, did you guys see that clip of Trump essentially saying that the U.S. military has been sneaking out, you know, like hundreds of thousands of oil, barrels of oil at night? Maybe that's why he's not so anxious about the Strait being closed, though now like the Red Sea is also closed. So 2 points where you know, traffic is moving are now seemingly shut off. But what we have seen in this last month, since the previous month, is that CPI inflation has risen. Now, obviously, you know, our opinion, we think CPI is a manipulated metric, and yet they still can't manipulate the metric to show that inflation is going down. It is, in fact, rising. Now, in the context of everything going on, oil, energy prices are going up. that's going to have an effect on the inflation. Now, obviously, we view inflation as the expansion of the money supply, but there are inflationary pressures with the energy prices going up. Anyways, check out this post here. This is crazy. Walter Bloomberg goes, Trump just said, I love the inflation. President Donald Trump brushed aside concerns after U.S. inflation rose to 4.2% in May, saying, I love the inflation and calling the data great. He argued higher prices driven largely by energy costs linked to the Iran conflict will fall sharply once the war ends and oil flows resume normally. Trump remains confident a deal with Iran will eventually be reached. So that was yesterday, and I gave you the updated where we are today. So, I mean, who knows? You know, what if they go in very hard tonight and, you know, it is over? I guess hypothetically possible, but doesn't seem likely. So remains confident a deal with Iran will eventually be reached. The energy costs linked to the Iran conflict will fall sharply once the war ends and oil flows resume. Is the end of the war in the room with us now? Is it possible? Does anyone see it? Look, this has been... I also, with that being said, I do think that, as I've been saying for a while, a lot of the kind of misdirection, some people call it, you know, Trump always chickens out, the taco, the bombastic art of the deal going on. I'm not one to claim to have any insight on that. I defer to what other people have said and what they're kind of pitching and talking about. Could this be another one? I think at this point we just like don't take it seriously anymore. It's like, okay, how many times have we said the negotiations were about to be over? Like 12. Now we're going to bomb them. I wouldn't be surprised if it's we had a great conversation yesterday, and so we're not going in tonight, and it's all freaking out. Everyone's freaking out for no reason. Could be the case, but I love inflation. It's kind of a crazy soundbite, right? Like, we'll figure it out. I love inflation. And I saw someone in the comments basically say, like, Trump hates his base. Dude, we love inflation. We love inflation. It's so good. Just destroys my purchasing power. What's always say? An invisible tax on everyday people. This is awesome. We love inflation. It's literally the best thing ever. Awesome, man. No new strikes. All right, let's see. Let me before I wrap up, I'll double check. I'll double check Trump's True Social. Let's see what we have. Okay, here we are. Latest update. Thank you, dude, in the chat. 128 literally just happened. Based on the fact that discussions with the Islamic Republic of Iran have been brought to the highest level of Iranian leadership and approved, I have, as President of the United States of America, canceled the scheduled strikes and bombings against Iran. Yo, it's happening quicker. Against Iran this evening. Discussions and final points have been in both concept and great detail approved by all parties involved, including the U.S., Israel, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Turkey, Pakistan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Jordan, Egypt, and others. The naval blockade will remain in full force in effect until this transaction is finalized. Time and place of the signing to be announced shortly. Yo, dude, the talks are so good. So maybe wait, was that what pumped? Is that why the 1 minute chart was pumping at 128? All right, bet. 1 minute chart pumping. I guess we're gonna pump until tomorrow. Markets are gonna close. We're gonna crash again, and then the pumps are gonna happen, guys. Oh man. Crazy times we live in. Anyways, guys, it is a shorter, that'll last about 6 hours for reals. It is a shorter show. I'm alone here. I can only talk for myself for so long. But tomorrow, BTC Prague's happening right now. So maybe we'll get some cool clips coming out of it. Maybe I can do a show of just covering what's coming out of BTC Prague. There has been some interesting back and forth, and the conference hasn't even happened already. So we'll see if anything interesting happens at BTC Prague. But on that note, it's your boy. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. Make sure you stack some sats. Stay humble. Stay solvent. I will catch you on our last show of the week tomorrow. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.